High Road to Gairloch. This tune focuses on your B doubling and your C doubling. And like I say, you want them to pop, pop, pop. And that is your C and B doublings. Now we'll, at the end of this video, I will go through step by step each line. But right now I'll play it straight through at 46 beats per minute so you can play along. High Road to Gairloch, this is a march at 46 beats per minute. 1, 2, ready, play. That'll take your breath away on the chanter, for sure. So let's go to the first line. It's pretty straightforward. It is a G grace note on E, and that since that note is dotted, you're going to hang out a little bit longer on it, followed by an F, and an F is the 16th note, what we call a cut. So more dot, less cut. So G grace note on E, F cut, G grace note on E, low A. Pretty straightforward. Just be sure to hang out on that first E and cut the following supplement note, that F. Now immediately after that first measure, you go straight into your first doubling, which is going to be a C doubling, and then followed by an E grace note on low A, G grace note on E. And that E is a quarter note, so it gets a full beat, so you get to hang out on that a little bit before you go into the first throw on D. So the first two measures. Now, once you come off that E on the second, on your end of the second measure, you go straight into your first throw on D. This is the part that trips some people up, because you're going to go straight into your throw on D, which is an 8th note, immediately to a G grace note on F, down to an E, back into another throw on D. Now, since the G grace note on F down to an E, those are both 16 notes, those are both cut notes. You need to burn through them pretty quick. So that throw on D on the third measure, so they'll pop on it, throw on D, then F E, throw on D, E grace note down to low G. Okay? And some people have a tendency to go to low A here, but that is a low G. And that's going to be on your third measure. Now your fourth measure goes right into a B doubling with your E grace note back down on a low G, ending with a throw on D. Now if you'll notice, you got your B doubling, E grace note down to a low G, and then the throw on D has a low G. Well, you just stay on that low G since you're already there, and then finish up with your throw on D. That's a quarter note, so that takes a full beat. So that first line straightforward. Now, when you go to the second line, you're basically just going to repeat what you just did, except when you get to your third measure, instead of doing your double throw on Ds with your F and your E in between, you're just going to go down and play a low A dot to a B cut to a C doubling, and then back down to a low A. So the second line starts off, the first two measures are exactly like the first line. And then your third measure is the only one that changes up, and it is going down to a low A. Low A dot, hang out, come up to a B, do your C doubling, E grace note on low A, and then you finish up that second line, fourth measure, with a B doubling, quarter note, so that takes a full beat with your strike on low A, another quarter beat. So that second line. So that last measure of the second line, you kind of hang out on those two little embellishments since they're quarter notes. Getting ready for the, then you'll repeat. You'll repeat those two lines again, and then when you get to the third line, you're going to start off with your C doubling and follow that with an E grace note on low A, G grace note on low A, and this low A is dotted, so you're going to hang out a little bit before you go up to your B. So the third line, first measure, and then immediately into another C doubling, E grace note on low A, to another C doubling, quarter note, so you hang out a little bit. So the first two measures on the third line. And that sets you up. You got a full beat, you got time to do that second C doubling before you go into your throw on D, dot, down to a real quick C 16th note, which is, we call it a cut, G grace note on B, dot, hang out, over to a C cut note, real quick. Now when I get done with that C, immediately right to another throw on D. So I'll play the second measure, third line, starting with your C doubling, and I'll move right on through the third measure with your throw on D, and I'll start the throw on D on the fourth measure. So that's your flow on that fourth measure, third line, throw on D, E grace note down on a B, finish up with a strong throw on D, quarter note, you hang out. So the third line, starting with your C doubling, there's several throw on Ds, and like you say, a couple of, practically all of them are C doublings or throw on Ds on your third line. And then when you come off your throw on D, you immediately go into your fourth line, starting off with a C doubling, E grace note on low A, G grace note on low A. It's pretty much repeating exactly what you just did, but you got to watch out. Instead of going to, on the second measure, the fourth line, on the third line you do a low A. On this one you do a low B before you get into your C doubling, going up to an E. So fourth line, first measure. It's the exact same thing you play on the third line, first measure. Now the second measure on the fourth line is a C doubling, E grace note on B, C doubling, E. And then to finish it out, low A dotted, hang out, come up to a B, your C doubling, E grace note on low A, B doubling for a quarter note, hang out, and do an A strike, quarter note, and that is the exact same thing you end on the second line as well. So this is the fourth line. And that is High Road to Gairloch. We'll talk about it in class.